Well, hello everybody. Danny back from Deep South Homestead on porch time today. I decided to just go off in the woods back over here at Pecan Grove and sit down and just enjoy nature for a while. The wind's blowing, it's kind of an overcast day. Not cold at all. Matter of fact, yesterday was 86 degrees. Well, let me put it this way. Saturday was 86 degrees here at Deep South Homestead. A while ago I looked and it was 83. This is on a Sunday about 1:30 in the afternoon. Finally made it over here to Pecan Grove, getting a few things done, and just decided after lunch to just go take a break and just go in the woods for a while. And that's where I'm at. It's back in the woods, and you can see the rolling hills in here behind me. It's quite steep back there. I mean, the camera may not do it justice, but everything is so bright and so green right now. I just wish in the Deep South that it could stay that way. But once the hot sun comes out and begins to bake everything, and we get up in the hundreds and the triple digits for just days on end, the leaves and everything on the trees will eventually succumb to the heat, and all this beauty will take on a less green look to it. So, you know, there's been a lot going on, guys, in the world. We are, you know, everybody. I get a lot of emails, different things, comments, and I was thankful that on the live stream Saturday night that I didn't get bombarded like I thought I was going to, because, you know, Iran struck Israel Saturday, and we knew that was coming. So I just kind of, I told Wanda, I said, you know, when we do the live stream, people's going to just bombard us. So we went ahead and we banned certain words from being used on the live stream. And that may have helped keep some of the comments down. So if you made a comment and it didn't show up, that would be why. Now, the lighting may not be the best in the world for me down here in the woods right now, because there is virtually, I'm up under all this timber in here, and there's not really that much light gets in here. So the camera may be a little dark, and I could lighten it up a little bit, but if I do, then the background back here becomes like real white looking, and I didn't want that. So we shouldn't be panicking about what we see happening in the Middle East right now, because Christ told us that this stuff was going to happen. And he said, let not your hearts be troubled when this stuff happens. You know, we're not to be worried about it, because he is actually the one that's orchestrating it, or allowing it to be orchestrated. And really and truly, it's to bring about good for us. And I know you probably think, how does wars and, you know, all this kind of horrible stuff bring about good? But in the long run, it does for the believers. Because all it means is we're just that much closer to getting to meet Christ. And with that being said, I want to pose a question. What will that day be like? And that's something most of us don't ever think about, because we're really, to be honest with you, and I'm guilty of it. I'll be the first to admit and raise my hand. I'm really guilty of this, of not stopping and thinking about what will that day be like. And the day I'm talking about is when the Lord returns. I mean, what will that day be like? What kind of clues do we have in Scripture? What does the Word tell us? Or does it even tell us anything about what that day will be like? Well, it does tell us what that day will be like in a lot of ways. If you go back and you study it in the Scriptures, it says that as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. As it was in the days of Lot, so shall it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. So, we've talked about this before. You know, I mean, during Noah's day, all the DNA had been changed, and there were hybrids everywhere, and it did not please God. In Lot's day, there was lots of immorality, lots of lawlessness. You know, we want to blame it on one particular group of people, and that's not necessarily true. It's all because of them. It had lots to do with just lawlessness. People were very lawless. I mean, they were very carefree, ungodly in all their deeds and everything. And have you seen any similarities yet? I mean, the day that we live in, we're tampering with DNA with everything, down to the very plants that we eat through genetically modifying them. And then animals have been made hybrids. I mean, literally, if you stop and think about it, even in the cattle industry, I'm involved with cattle. Cattle's been crossed up so much to create more pure, more disease-resistant strains, should I say, and depending on what man wants out of the animal is what he breeds it for. So we've messed with crossbreeding up all the animals. We've done it with the plants. Now humans, the human DNA has been changed through, y'all know what, I don't have to tell you. And now we're sitting here, and I'm sitting here thinking, this is just like it was in the days of Noah. The Bible says they'll be eating, drinking, marrying, giving in marriage. And, you know, going back over 100 years, fast food restaurants have come into existence, and now they're on every street corner. People are not thankful for what they eat anymore. You never see anybody giving thanks. The scripture tells us that in this day, men will be unthankful, unholy. They will be ruthless, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. So, are you starting to see any similarities yet? I mean, about what that day will actually be like? Does it not sound like maybe we're experiencing some of those things now? The scripture tells us in Matthew 24, I talk about Matthew 24 a lot because it does deal with that. You know, wars, rumors of wars, kingdom against kingdom, nation against nation. Now, is anything unusual about that? No. There's not. Earthquakes in diverse places. Is anything unusual about that? No. There's always been earthquakes. If you go back and study geology and archaeology and all that kind of stuff, you'll see that there's been multiple earthquakes forever. Volcanoes, all those things have been, been forever. So what makes it unusual about all these things that Christ is talking about there in Matthew 24? The unusual part of it is they're all happening simultaneously. Not that they're an event throughout history, but they're happening simultaneously. The weather is being tampered with horrendously. We see all kinds of things that the scripture mentions that's going to happen and that is happening. So what will that day be like? And the thing that, I guess, if anything about this bothers me, is the simple fact that we become so complacent with life and the hustle and the bustle of life that it just seems natural to us. We don't realize how much things is changing because we're adapting so quickly to it. You know, those of you who are my age or older remembers a different world. My parents remembered a different world than I remembered. My grandparents remembered a different one than my parents remembered. My dad grew up during the Great Depression. And he told me the horrors of working all day long from daylight to dark, days on end, for 50 cents a day. And you was happy to have a job. And we're talking about you didn't dare say nothing and you performed to a T, or there was somebody there to take your place. He told me about getting the tokens and the stamps where they could even get shoes or flour or sugar, and you was only allowed to have so much. He told me about when they banned an American citizen from being able to own gold. I mean, these things, he talked to me about how hard it was to find something to eat. If you had a producing pear tree, then you ate pears every day until they were gone. You didn't dare waste one of them. My dad in his older age would not eat leftovers because he ate so many during the Depression era. Now stop and think about that. Not all history that we call the good old days were the good old days. A lot of them was very hard. I look back and I would tell my kids, I said, man, I lived during, during a lot of my life was during the good old days. I mean, we had the fast cars, we had the muscle cars. I was all into that. They were all nice rides, souped up, hot rods, all this kind of stuff. I told her, I said, you go back into the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. I said, we had some of the nicest looking automobiles and fastest automobiles that there was. And now you look around and you don't see anything that I call looking sporty, and it sure ain't fast. Everything now has been emission controlled down to where it's still powerful because they turbocharge a lot of stuff, but it's just not the same. You know, they take a little 4-cylinder engine and they just turbocharge that joker up to where it performs like an 8-cylinder. And, you know, so much has changed. Kids nowadays will never know what it's like to grow up in a free world. I mean, stop and think about it. Every kid that was born that was a boy used to want a Red Ryder BB gun. You know, and it was a normal thing. It was just everybody give them for Christmas, you know. When I went to school, I carried a gun in the back rack of my truck. I had a gun rack in the back windows of my truck, and I carried a gun to school with me. I didn't lock my doors. Nobody took the gun. Nobody shot anybody with it. There was ammunition in the barrel, in the chambers. After school, many times, a bunch of us boys would get together and we'd go hunting during the winter months. If it was during warmer weather, I had fishing rods in my truck. Nobody took the fishing rods. Life has took a turn for the worst. There's 21 things mentioned in Scripture in 2 or 3 verses, and I'll let you Google them and find them. Because if I tell you where all this stuff is, all it does is enable you. If you have to look for it, then it causes you to dig deeper. But there's 21 things that sits there that deals with sin, the exceeding sin of mankind. And the things that we think are horrible sins before God, and most of them are bad sins, don't get me wrong, but we talk about drinking and drugs and alcohol, promiscuous sex, incestual relationships. We think about all this type of stuff, rape. And those are horrible. God forbid. But at the same time, if you go over into Proverbs 6:16, I believe that's where it's at, and you look at the things that God hates, ain't none of them in there. Now, if God hates it, and it's an abomination to him, that's horrible. But there ain't none of that stuff in there. And you need to go read and see what it is. It's stuff that we just look at and go, oh, that don't seem that bad. But God said, I hate it. So, if all this is going on, and we don't think anything about it, what will that day be like when the Lord comes? Well, the scripture tells us what it'll be like. He tells us it'll be like a thief in the night. Now, it also tells us that the good master knew at what hour the thief was going to be coming. He would be waiting for him, and he would not get in. He would prevent it. So if the coming of Christ is going to be like a thief in the night, he's going to come and go and you'll never know he was there. What does that tell you? It tells you that people will not be paying any attention to anything that has anything to do with God. It'll be just like the scripture said, they'll be lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. All they'll be interested in is enjoying themselves and having a good time. God will never be in their thoughts at all. So this is something for us to think about. It is something for us to really ponder, because with what we see going on across the water, if Israel retaliates for what just happened, and I pretty much believe that it will, and if America gets even more involved in what they are, then what we're looking at is game on. We're fixing to go into a time and a period in history that none of us really know a lot about, because we've lived through a time where nothing has ever really been bad here upon the American soil. Well, if it goes down that road, because of technology today, you can look for cyber attacks to become very prevalent in all areas of our lives. And it is going to disrupt everything as we know it. And then after the cyber attacks will come, well, how do you say it? Destruction. It'll be in destruction in forms that we've never imagined before. So it's very, very important that we get our houses in order, and that we make sure everything that we have is in order, so that when that day comes, it won't be like a thief in the night for us. We will be ready for our Father when He comes. Now, if you go back and you read Matthew chapter 24, the Lord gives the disciples there a whole list of things there that we talked about earlier. But you know what He says? the end is not yet. Now stop and think about that. We're going to experience all these horrific things, and it ain't over. It's still, we still got to endure a lot of things. Our own local town here, Wanda saw on Facebook where our sheriff put up that he wants all the pastors to come together and kind of form a security thing, because they know that one of the first things that will happen in America is that places of worship will be target number one. And they're trying to create a coalition. And when I knew this was coming, the FBI did a briefing here, I guess it's been over a month ago now, probably maybe a little longer than that, where they called in as many sheriffs as they could to Washington and briefed them on this very thing, and told them that they needed to try to start forming groups in their communities to watch out for, let's use the phrase, lone wolves that's going to carry out these types of things. Guys, you're going to be living during those days. So what will the day be like? How will it be for you? If you have no power, how will you function? Because without power, for most people, means they have no lights, they have no way to cook, they have no way to take a bath, they have no way to get water, they have no way to do anything. So what will that day be like for you? Will it be scary? Will it freak you out? What will that day be like? Well, let me tell you something. The day that you're without power will be a walk in the park compared to the day when the Lord returns. When the Lord returns, it will be that bad. And so many people reach out and holler, "Come, Lord, come now, please, Jesus, come." Do you know what you're asking? You're asking for the prophecy in the scriptures to be fulfilled, and for all kinds of horror to be released upon you, your children, and your grandchildren. Something to think about. What will that day be like? And before I get off of here today, I told y'all Saturday night when we Sunday. I told you Sunday, I gotta get my days squared up. I told you Sunday morning, I did a video about something we wanted to bless people with. And I told you in that video that on Porch Time, I was going to give you the winners to the things that we was going to bless someone with. Well, I'm going to keep my word on that. What we done, Olight asked us, would we do a giveaway? And I told Wanda, I said, yeah, we'll bless somebody with some Olights. We've got so many that we have gotten over the years till we try to keep a pretty good stock of them. And I told him, I says, the only way I'll do anything is if you let me give a couple away. And they agreed. So, one of the lights that we showed in the video Sunday was called an Arkfeld Pro. Now it gives off a UV light, ultraviolet, also a green laser, and it has a white light. This is one of their newest ones. And I'm going to give that one to a subscriber's name who is called Nope, N-O-P-E, and Yep, Y-E-P. Nope and Yep. Nope and Yep, you're the winner of the Arkfeld Pro. And I need you to contact us through deepsouthhomestead@gmail.com and give us your information and your address so that we can mail this light to you. Now, one other light that I wanted to give away was one that I use almost every day of my life. I have fell in love with this one, and this is one of the ones that I wanted to be able to give away because it is really one of the best lights I've ever owned. And that is called a Seeker 4 Pro. This light, y'all see me use it. If you see me doing any videos with lights, it's this light that I'm using. This light is like super fantastic. When we was deer hunting and we would shoot a deer, this is the light I would use to go hunt the deer. Or if we're out at night looking for predators or anything like that that's messing around with the chicken pens or armadillos at night, or just Wanda and I just going riding at night on our Ranger, this is the one I use, is the Seeker 4 Pro. And the winner of that is called Best in Home and Garden. BESTIN Home and Garden. Best in Home and Garden. Contact us at deepsouthhomestead@gmail.com and leave us your address so that we can mail the Seeker 4 Pro to you. Now, in the event, well, let me put it this way. You will have till Thursday to get me that information. If I do not receive that information by Thursday, then I will choose new winners. And we will do this again. Now, I'm not going to hunt somebody down. If you put your name in something and say you want to try to win something, then I expect you to keep checking back to see if you were one of the ones that got blessed. I don't wait around for people. So, if you won Nope and Yep and Best in Home and Garden, contact us by Thursday. If you don't, guys, I will go back to the same video and choose another winner. Guys, I hope that today on Porch Time that maybe I caused you to ponder your thoughts just a little bit about what will that day be like, because most people take it for granted. Most people never stop and think, what will that day be like when the Lord returns? Will it be like a thief in the night to you, or will it be a day that you've been looking for? Thank you, guys, from Deep South Homestead.